Imagine holding a small piece of silver in your hand. It feels cool and heavy. This is not just a piece of metal, it is a piece of history. For thousands of years, silver coins have been the lifeblood of India. They have passed through the hands of kings and merchants, soldiers and farmers. Each coin tells a story. It speaks of empires that rose and fell. It whispers of trade routes that crossed mountains and seas. These coins were not just for buying goods. They were symbols of power, art, and identity. The history of India is deeply connected to these small, shiny discs of silver. The journey of Indian silver coins is a long and fascinating one. It begins over 2,500 years ago, long before the Roman Empire. The first coins were not round like the ones we use today. They were odd shapes, stamped with simple symbols. As time went on, the coins changed. They became more beautiful and complex. The faces of powerful rulers appeared on them. Intricate designs showed gods, animals, and important events. Following the trail of these silver coins is like walking through a museum of Indian history. Each coin is a tiny window into a different time, a different world. For an American reader, the sheer variety of Indian coins can be astonishing. The United States has had a relatively stable currency for over 200 years. India, by contrast, has seen countless kingdoms and rulers, each minting their own money. This created a vast and diverse collection of coins. Some were large and heavy, full of pure silver. Others were tiny, almost like silver seeds. These coins connected India to the rest of the world. They were found in ancient Roman hoards and in the treasure chests of pirates. They were a global currency long before the US dollar existed. This essay will take you on a journey through this incredible history. We will start in the noisy markets of ancient India, where merchants used the very first silver coins. We will travel through the grand courts of the Mughal emperors, who created one of the most famous silver coins in the world, the rupee. We will witness the arrival of the British and the changes they brought. Finally, we will see how modern India moved away from silver and into a new era of currency. This is not just a story about money. It is a story about a civilization, told through the enduring glimmer of silver. Our story begins around the 6th century BCE. This was a time of great change in India. Great thinkers like the Buddha were teaching new ideas. Large cities were growing along the fertile plains of the Ganges River. With the growth of trade, people needed a better way to exchange goods than simple barter. The answer came in the form of small, irregular pieces of silver. These were India's first coins. They are known today as punch-marked coins. They were not made in the way we make coins now. There were no round blanks or powerful presses. Instead, they were simply pieces of silver, cut from a larger sheet. The name punch-marked perfectly describes how these coins were made. A silversmith would take a piece of silver of a specific weight. Then, using a hammer and a punch, they would stamp small symbols onto its surface. Each symbol was made by a different punch. A single coin could have 5 or more different marks on it. These symbols were not random. They were the marks of local guilds or kingdoms, known as Mahajanapadas. The symbols guaranteed the weight and purity of the silver. It was a system of trust. The symbols might include the sun, a bull, an elephant, or complex geometric patterns. What is truly remarkable about these coins is their lack of words. There were no inscriptions, no names of kings, and no dates. The symbols were the language. A merchant from one part of India could travel hundreds of miles to another and still use his coins. The local money changers would recognize the symbols and know the coin's value. This system helped trade to flourish across the subcontinent. It created a common economic language. It is fascinating to think that a coin minted in the ancient kingdom of Magadha could end up in a market in Taxila, far to the northwest. These ancient coins were not just used for big transactions. While the standard silver coin was called Akashapana, smaller denominations existed. Tiny silver coins, some weighing as little as 0.1 grams, were also made. These were incredibly small, like tiny silver specks. They were likely used for everyday purchases, perhaps for a small amount of food or a simple service. Finding one of these minuscule coins today is a rare treat for collectors. It connects us directly to the daily life of ordinary people who lived more than 2 millennia ago, showing that even the smallest transactions were part of this new monetary world. The age of small kingdoms eventually gave way to a mighty empire. Around 322 BCE, Chandragupta Maurya united much of India under his rule. The Mauryan Empire was one of the largest and most powerful of the ancient world. Such a vast empire needed a strong centralized currency. The Mauryans continued to use the punch-marked silver coins, but they standardized them. The coins became more uniform in weight and quality. The state took control of minting. The symbols on the coins, especially the sun and a 6-armed symbol, became associated with the power of the Mauryan emperor. This period shows us how coins become instruments of state power. The Mauryan government could control the economy by controlling the money supply. They collected taxes in the form of these silver coins. They paid their vast armies and armies of officials with them. The famous political treatise, the Arthashastra, which is often attributed to the Mauryan minister Chanakya, talks in great detail about minting and currency. It describes how to detect counterfeit coins and the punishments for those who made them. Money was serious business, and the empire depended on its integrity. After the fall of the Mauryans, India entered a period of fragmentation. But a few centuries later, another great empire rose, the Gupta Empire, starting around 320 CE. This era is often called the Golden Age of India because of its incredible achievements in art, science, and literature. The Guptas did not use punch-marked coins. Instead, they were influenced by coin designs from the West, particularly from the Kushans and Romans. They began to mint beautiful silver coins that featured portraits of their kings. For the first time, the face of the ruler was a central part of the coin's design. The silver coins of the Gupta kings are works of art. One side would show a detailed and often flattering portrait of the emperor. The other side would often feature a sacred symbol or a deity. For example, the coins of Chandragupta II often show the mythical bird Garuda, the mount of the god Vishnu. The coins also had inscriptions in the Brahmi script, giving the king's name and titles. These coins were not just money, they were propaganda. They proclaimed the king's power, his divine right to rule, and the glory of his dynasty. They were a powerful message in a small silver package. Between the Mauryan and Gupta empires, a fascinating chapter in Indian numismatics was written by invaders from the north. After Alexander the Great's brief invasion of India, his Greek successors established kingdoms in the region of modern-day Afghanistan and Pakistan. These rulers, known as the Indo-Greeks, began to push into northern India around 180 BCE. They brought with them the Greek tradition of coin-making, which was very different from the Indian punch-marked system. Their coins would have a profound and lasting impact on the subcontinent's currency. The Indo-Greeks were masters of realistic portraiture. Their silver coins are famous for their stunningly beautiful and lifelike depictions of their kings. Unlike the stylized figures on later Indian coins, these were true portraits. You could see the individual features of the ruler, the shape of his nose, the style of his hair, even his expression. Some kings were shown wearing unique helmets, like Menander I, who wore a helmet shaped like an elephant's head. These coins were a declaration of identity, a way for these foreign rulers to present themselves to their new subjects in a powerful and personal way. What makes Indo-Greek coins truly unique is how they blended two cultures. On one side of the coin, you would have the Greek-style portrait of the king with his name in Greek letters. But on the other side, they often included Indian elements. They would feature Indian deities or animals like the bull or elephant. Crucially, they also included inscriptions in Indian scripts, like Brahmi or Kharosthi. This was a brilliant move. It made the coins understandable and acceptable to both their Greek and Indian subjects. These bilingual coins are a perfect symbol of the cultural fusion that was happening at the time. The influence of these coins was immense. The idea of putting a realistic portrait of the ruler on a coin, and of using inscriptions to name him, was adopted by many Indian kingdoms that followed. The Saka and Kushan rulers who came after the Indo-Greeks continued this tradition. Even the Gupta emperors, centuries later, were inspired by this style. The Indo-Greeks showed that a coin could be more than just a piece of metal with a guaranteed weight. It could be a canvas for art and a tool for communication, a practice that would define Indian coinage for the next 1,000 years. The medieval period in India was a time of great upheaval and change. Starting around the 12th century, Turkic rulers from Central Asia established powerful sultanates, with their capital in Delhi. The Delhi Sultanate and the various regional sultanates that followed brought new ideas about governance, architecture, and, of course, currency. They continued the use of silver as the primary metal for high-value coins. However, they replaced the portraits and religious symbols of earlier dynasties with something new, beautiful and complex calligraphy from the Arabic script. This marked a major shift in the design of Indian coins. The most important silver coin of this era was the tanka. It was a large, heavy coin, typically weighing around 11 grams. Under rulers like Iltutmish and Alauddin Khilji, the silver tanka became the standard coin across northern India. The entire surface of the coin was covered in elegant inscriptions. These were not just the ruler's name. They often included his full titles, the date the coin was minted, according to the Islamic calendar, and the name of the mint city. Sometimes, they even included religious phrases from the Quran. These coins were a powerful declaration of the ruler's faith and his authority. This period also saw some daring and, honestly, sometimes disastrous monetary experiments. One of the most famous stories is that of Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq in the 14th century. He was a brilliant but eccentric ruler. Facing a global shortage of silver, he decided to introduce a token currency. He ordered that coins made of cheaper metals, like brass and copper, should be treated as if they were silver tankas. The idea was clever, but it failed spectacularly. The design of the token coins was too simple, and counterfeiters began producing them in huge numbers. Soon the empire was flooded with fake money, and the economy collapsed. The Sultan had to withdraw the currency and redeem all the tokens, real and fake, at a huge cost to the treasury. The legacy of the Sultanate period was the establishment of a bimetallic currency system. Gold coins, known as mohurs, were used for very large transactions. Silver tankas were the workhorse of trade and administration, and copper or bilon, which is a silver-copper alloy, coins were used for small, everyday purchases. This system was refined and standardized by Sher Shah Suri, a brilliant Afghan ruler who briefly overthrew the Mughals in the mid-16th century. He introduced a new, high-quality silver coin, weighing about 11.5 grams. He called it the rupiah. This was the direct ancestor of the modern rupee, and it would become the most famous coin in Indian history. When the Mughal dynasty established its power in the 16th century, it inherited the currency system created by Sher Shah Suri. The Mughal emperors, from Akbar the Great to Aurangzeb, really understood the importance of a uniform and reliable currency for managing their vast and wealthy empire. They adopted Sher Shah's silver rupiah and made it their own. Under the Mughals, the silver rupee became one of the most recognized and trusted coins in the world. Its purity and consistent weight made it desirable for international trade, from the ports of Europe all the way to the shores of China. Mughal silver rupees are objects of incredible beauty. Like the coins of the Delhi Sultanate, they did not feature portraits, as Islamic tradition generally discouraged the depiction of living beings. Instead, the coins were masterpieces of calligraphy. The emperor's name and titles were artfully arranged on one side, often within intricate borders of dots and floral patterns. The other side typically contained the kalima, the Islamic creed, or poetic verses praising the ruler. The coins also carried the name of the mint city. The Mughals had dozens of mints across their empire, from Kabul in the west to Bengal in the east, which really showed the vast extent of their control. One of the most fascinating aspects of Mughal coinage is the variety of special issues. The Emperor Jahangir, known for his love of art and nature, broke with tradition. He issued a famous series of zodiac coins. Each month, he minted gold and silver coins that featured one of the 12 signs of the zodiac, such as Leo the lion or Scorpio the scorpion. These are incredibly rare and highly sought after by collectors today. His wife, the powerful Empress Nur Jahan, even had coins issued in her own name, which was a very unusual honor for a woman at that time. These special coins give us a glimpse into the personalities and passions of the imperial court. The Mughal rupee was so successful that it became the standard by which other currencies were measured. Its name and form were copied by many regional kingdoms and even by the European trading companies that began to arrive in India. The word rupee itself comes from the Sanskrit word rupya, meaning wrought silver. The stability of the Mughal rupee for nearly 200 years was a key factor in the economic prosperity of the empire. It facilitated trade, made tax collection efficient, and gave people confidence in the value of their money. The Mughal rupee was not just a coin, it was the financial backbone of an empire. As Mughal power declined in the 18th century, the British East India Company rose to become the dominant force in India. At first, the company minted coins that imitated the Mughal style. They put the name of the reigning Mughal emperor on their coins, even though the emperor had little real power. This was a clever political move. It made their coins look familiar and trustworthy to the Indian population. These early coins, minted in places like Bengal, Bombay, and Madras, are known as presidency coinage. They represent a transitional period where a foreign trading company was slowly transforming into a ruling power. By 1835, the British felt secure enough to make a significant change. They introduced a uniform coinage for all of British India. The new silver rupee no longer carried the name of the Mughal emperor. Instead, it featured a portrait of the reigning British monarch. The first of these featured King William IV. Later, coins would bear the image of Queen Victoria, King Edward VII, and King George V and VI. This was a powerful statement. It announced to everyone that there was a new ruler in India. The reverse side of the coin was standardized with the words East India Company and the value, 1 rupee, written in English and Persian. The British also brought the Industrial Revolution to Indian minting. They established modern, steam-powered mints in Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras. These machines could produce coins that were perfectly round, with uniform thickness and intricate designs. They also introduced features to prevent counterfeiting, such as a milled or reeded edge. This was a world away from the hand-hammered coins of earlier eras. The machine-made British Indian rupee was a symbol of industrial might and imperial order. It circulated widely, not just in India, but across British colonies in Asia and Africa. The silver content of the rupee remained high for most of the British period, maintaining the standard of 11.66 grams with 91.7% silver purity. However, during World War II, the costs of the war forced a change. The British government could no longer afford to use so much precious metal in its coinage. In 1940, they reduced the silver content of the rupee to 50%. Then, in 1946, just before India's independence, they stopped using silver altogether and switched to making rupees out of nickel. This marked the end of a silver coinage tradition that had lasted for over 2.5 millennia. The age of silver in India was drawing to a close. On August 15, 1947, India became an independent nation. This new chapter in its history really required a new currency. The old coins bearing the portrait of the British monarch were no longer appropriate. India needed coins that reflected its own identity and sovereignty. The first coins of independent India were issued in 1950, the year India became a republic. The portrait of the British king was replaced by a powerful and ancient symbol, the lion capital of Ashoka. This emblem, originally from a pillar erected by the Mauryan emperor Ashoka in the 3rd century BCE, became the official seal of the new nation. The design of the new coins was a deliberate break from the colonial past. The reverse side still showed the denomination, but the imagery was Indian. The Ashoka lion capital symbolized India's ancient heritage, its commitment to peace, and its new strength as a republic. The initial coins, minted from 1950 to 1957, followed the old British weight standards and were part of a non-decimal system. The rupee was divided into 16 annas, and each anna was divided into 4 pice. This system, with its complex fractions, had been used for centuries but was about to change. In 1957, India made a major shift to a decimal system of currency, a move that really simplified calculations and brought it in line with most other countries. The rupee was now divided into 100 nai pice, which means new pice. The word nai was used for a few years to distinguish the new coins from the old ones. After 1964, the word naya was dropped, and they were simply called paise. Although India had stopped making silver currency coins in 1946, it did issue some special commemorative coins in silver for collectors in the following decades. But these were not intended for general circulation. The journey away from precious metals continued. Over the years, due to rising metal costs, the materials used for coins changed from nickel to cheaper alloys, like cupro-nickel, aluminum-magnesium, and eventually stainless steel. The small denomination paise coins, which were once a common sight, have gradually disappeared from circulation due to inflation, and their minting has ceased. Today, the coins we use in India are a far cry from the heavy silver rupees of the past. They are tokens of value, made from industrial metals, but they still carry the proud lion capital emblem, connecting them to a deep and resonant history. The story of Indian silver coins is more than just a regional history. It is a story of global significance that has touched many corners of the world. For centuries, India was one of the world's great economic powerhouses. It was a land rich in spices, textiles, and other valuable goods that were in high demand everywhere. The silver coins of India were the engine of this trade. Roman merchants in the 1st century CE sailed to Indian ports, bringing vast quantities of Roman silver coins to trade for pepper and pearls. So much silver flowed from Rome to India that the Roman historian Pliny the Elder actually complained it was draining the empire's treasury. This flow of silver did not stop with the Romans. Throughout the medieval and early modern periods, India acted as a global silver sink. It absorbed a huge portion of the silver mined in the New World, particularly from the Spanish mines in Mexico and Peru. This silver, often in the form of Spanish pieces of 8, would travel across the Atlantic to Europe and then be brought by European traders to India. Once in India, it was melted down and re-minted into Mughal rupees. This global movement of silver connected the Americas, Europe, and Asia, with the Indian rupee playing a central role in this emerging world economy. The influence of the Indian rupee can be seen in the names of currencies in many other countries. The word rupee is still used in Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Mauritius, and the Seychelles. The Indonesian rupiah and the Maldivian rufiah also share the same linguistic root. This is a direct legacy of the time when the Indian silver rupee was the dominant currency for trade across the Indian Ocean. It was a trusted brand, a standard of value that many other regions adopted. This linguistic footprint is a reminder of India's historical economic influence. Today, these ancient and historical silver coins are treasured by collectors and historians around the world. They are not just numismatic items, they are primary historical documents. A tiny punch-marked coin tells us about the economy of Buddha's time. A beautiful Indo-Greek drachm tells a story of cultural fusion, A Mughal rupee speaks of a powerful empire at the center of world trade. By studying these small pieces of silver, we gain a deeper understanding of the complex tapestry of Indian and world history. They remind us that for much of human history, the world was connected not by the internet, but by the shared gleam of a silver coin.